everyone to the second day of the Salesian Spirituality Days. So, bienvenidos a todos a este segundo dia da jornada da espiritualidade da família salesiana. Bem-vindos ao segundo dia da jornada de espiritualidade da família salesiana.
Bene, un applauso sempre a Silvio che traduce in diretta.
Grazie,
4
grazie.
lingue, 3 lingue. Ok, allora come ieri vi ricordo che dovete cliccare sul QR code per avere la traduzione, quindi adesso vedrete che compare alle mie spalle il QR code, appoggiate il telefono, fatelo adesso perché facciamo una prova per diciamo così capire che tutte le lingue insomma siano a posto.
Okay, for the English speaking speakers, we ask you again today to pick up your mobile phone and point to the QR code that is behind us and try to connect to the translation system to access the translation. We will make a test today to check that everything is okay. Para los que hablan español, os pedimos que hagan la conexión con su móvil en questo código QR que está en mi espalda, ¿ok? Para que se hará una prueba si todo funciona bien en ese momento. E para os que falam português, pedimos que com os vossos telemóveis se liguem através do código QR que está aqui nas minhas costas, nas nossas costas, e faremos um teste daqui a pouco com a Giulia a falar italiano e para testar.
Ok, scusate, piccolo avviso tecnico. Alle mie spalle vedete sempre la password della Wi-Fi, che è importante utilizzare soltanto per ascoltare le traduzioni, quindi non ci scaricate file, non fate altre cose perché altrimenti non regge, però potete utilizzarla per ascoltare le traduzioni, ok?
Okay, Julie was saying that you also can see on the screen the Wi-Fi password that allows you, with the Wi-Fi Grand Valdoco, that allows you to connect to the internet, of course, to access the translation platform. Está el password en el ecrán para que se puedan conectar a la Wi-Fi para poder acceder al sistema de traducción. Está aqui no ecrã, password para que possam conectar-se à internet e, claro, para aceder ao sistema de tradução. Okay? Grande Valdoco, 31 de gennaio de 88.
Ok, se ci siamo proviamo a fare una prova e quindi iniziando dallo spagnolo, adesso il traduttore parlerà e vediamo se riuscite a sentire correttamente.
Ok, buongiorno a tutti per lo spagnolo, bene?
Dateci un cenno, ok, lo spagnolo c'è. Il portoghese, vediamo se...
Portoghese.
Buongiorno, se il portoghese si sente.
Il portoghese sta molto bene, grazie.
Perfetto. Lo fa in diretta Silvio. Ok. Inglese, vediamo se gli inglesi ci sentono. Sì?
Okay.
No? Ok,
English?
ci dicono di no, sì? Sì, ok, si sente. Il francese, vediamo se la traduzione francese si riesce a sentire bene.
Ok.
Se qualcuno ci dà un
C'est
cenno.
bien pour le français?
Perfetto.
Parfait.
Bene, possiamo iniziare?
Sì, credo. Ok. Una piccola animazione, ok? E questa è conosciuta di tutta la gente, ok? Con me. Che non canto molto bene, ma... ok. Aram sam sam, guri 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 guri, aram sam sam, guri 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 guri, aram sam sam, aravi, guri 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 guri, aram sam sam, aravi, guri 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 guri, aram sam sam. Bene? Ok? Più veloce? Ok.
Tutti dovete farlo, Dobbiamo
Esatto,
farlo
esatto,
tutti.
tutti, non anche tutti. Aram sam sam, aram sam sam, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, aram sam sam, aram sam sam, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, aravi, aravi, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, aravi, aravi, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam. Ok? Più difficile. Aram sam sam, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, aravi, aravi, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam, aravi, aravi, guli 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 guli, aram sam sam. Ok, bene.
Bene, un applauso, facciamoci un grandissimo applauso.
Ok. Ieri noi abbiamo iniziato questa giornata di spiritualità ascoltando la presentazione della strena dal suo stesso autore, ossia il nostro rettore maggiore.
E oggi, per ricordare i momenti più belli della giornata di ieri, ci è stato donato un bellissimo video che adesso guarderemo insieme.
Buongiorno a tutti quanti stanno arrivando alla Casa Salesiana di Valdocco per celebrare queste 42esime giornate di spiritualità della famiglia salesiana. Benvenuti, welcome, bienvenidos, benvindos, bienvenidos.
Io sono the USA, New Jersey. We come here for the feast and we have so much amore in our hearts.
Io sono Suor Monica Belgarda, sono di Haiti e sono venuta a partecipare alle giornate della famiglia salesiana. È la mia famiglia da tanti anni che amo moltissimo e allora vengo per incontrare gli altri membri e anche arricchirmi di più sulla spiritualità salesiana.
Ciao a tutti, sono Graziella della Fraternità Contemplativa Maria di Nazareth. Sono contenta di essere qua, la 20 volte più o meno che partecipo e aspetto veramente che il sogno di Dio per la famiglia salesiana lo realizziamo tutti insieme, in comunione, in complementarietà e con tanta gioia.
Sono Concetto Di Rosa, vengo dalla Sicilia e da diversi anni che vengo, ho perso il conto. Vengo qua perché c'è qualcuno che mi aspetta ogni anno. Grande Don Bosco, ce l'ho nel sangue.
Il sogno di Don Bosco ci fa sognare. In concreto, oggi noi abbiamo un piccolo per importante sogno, che questi giorni siano per tutti noi, per tutti voi, veramente un'esperienza che ci aiuti a scoprire quello che Dio vuole da noi e che possiamo anche aiutare a tanti altri, soprattutto ai giovani più bisognosi, a che possano scoprire il sogno di Dio e portarlo avanti.
Sono certo che l'ispettore Don Leo ci darà il benvenuto a casa sua.
Carissime e carissimi componenti della famiglia salesiana, Eminenza Reverendissima, Don Angel, Madre Chiara, tutti i presenti. È per me un grande onore darvi il benvenuto qui a Valdocco, nella casa di Don Bosco.
Apri il nostro cuore a Cristo, sostieni il nostro impegno in questa società.
Grazie nuovamente per la vostra partecipazione e per l'entusiasmo che infonderemo gli uni sugli altri. Grazie.
Allora, come è nata la strena? È nata così perché non c'era un'altra possibilità. 200 anni, secondo anniversario centenario, del sonno dei 9 anni. Vuol dire il tema era chiarissimo.
È vero che sarà l'ultima, Un po' di nostalgia, perché tante cose sono già...
La nostra presenza ha tanto senso e di nuovo dico, e tutto si gioca nella fede. Io credo tanto che se noi famiglia salesiana continuiamo a riscaldare i nostri cuori e i cuori delle nostre istituzioni, dico di nuovo, attenti a non cadere nella tentazione della paura ante le difficoltà. Non è vero che mi sto preparando per... Io continuo con la mia vita come salesiano di Don Bosco. È vero che qualche volta ho dovuto andare a quello stato, lo stato più piccolo del mondo. Soltanto questo, però lo dico perché sembra che sto preparando una strategia. No, l'unica strategia, continuo a dire, la fede nel Signore Gesù, servire agli altri, essere prudente e buono sempre e basta.
Bene, è sempre bello rivedersi. Io approfitterei per ringraziare ancora una volta Ime Comunicazioni, che sta facendo un lavoro grandissimo, e Piero Giordano, che ha realizzato questo video. Facciamo un applauso grande.
Un forte applauso.
Poi una piccola nota tecnica: ho bisogno che Don Rafael e Blasca salgano qua alla destra del palco e quindi raggiungano la regia per una cosa tecnica.
Grazie.
Ok. Ieri abbiamo presentato e conosciuto la strenna di quest'anno. Oggi la approfondiremo attraverso una tavola rotonda, ma prima di entrare nel vivo della giornata abbiamo un nuovo video della nostra famiglia salesiana. Proviamo a vedere, Silvio, se il nostro pubblico conosce le risposte a queste domande. Quale gruppo della famiglia salesiana è stato fondato nel 1933? Vediamo, così.
Un altro indizio.
Diamo un altro indizio. È stato fondato da Monsignor Giuseppe Cognata. Ok, qualcuno alza la mano.
Sì, sono le Salesiane Oblate del Sacro Cuore di Gesù. Conosciamo meglio guardando i loro video. Un applauso.
Salesiane Oblate del Sacro Cuore, fondate dal vescovo salesiano Monsignor Giuseppe Cognata, servo di Dio. Grazie all'opera del fondatore, le Salesiane Oblate del Sacro Cuore sono nella Chiesa per testimoniare e diffondere il carisma dell'oblazione.
The Oblates of the Sacred Heart. The Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart, SOSC, founded by Salesian Bishop Giuseppe Cognata, servant of God. Thanks to the work of our founder, Bishop Cognata, Giuseppe, son of Vitale Cognata and Rosa Montana, was born on October 14, 1885 in Agrigento, Sicily. In 1897, he entered San Basilio Salesian College in Randazzo, in Catania, Sicily, and here young Peppino's Salesian vocation blossomed. On May 6, 1905, he professed his first vows as a Salesian of Don Bosco. On May 5, 1908, in San Gregorio, Catania, Cognata, as a cleric, had the joy of professing his perpetual vows to Blessed Michael Rua. October 29, 1909, Bishop Giovanni Battista Arista ordained Cognata a priest in Acireale. Between 1909 and 16, Father Cognata carried out his mission in Bronte, Sicily, in Este, Veneto, and in Macerrata, Marche. 1916 to 1918 saw him as a soldier in the First World War, stationed in Palermo, Trapani, and Padua. 1925 to 1928, rector at Randazzo, Catania. 1928 to 1929, rector at Gualdo Tadino, Perugia. From 1929 to 1933, he was rector at the Sacred Heart Basilica in Rome. On March 16, 1933, Pius XI appointed him bishop of the Diocese of Bova in Reggio Calabria. He was ordained a bishop on April 23, 1933, in the Basilica of the Sacred Heart in Rome, at the hands of Cardinal Augustus Hollande. June 10 to 11, 1933, he was installed as bishop in his diocese of Bova. The population of the Bova diocese lived in great misery and lack of education. Many children were abandoned on the streets by their parents, forced to leave home for work, or in search of just their daily bread. There was only one priest for the towns of Aspromonte, isolated, discouraged, struggling with misery, exposed to serious moral dangers. On December 8, 1933, to respond to this need, Bishop Cognata founded the Congregation of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart in Pellaro, Reggio Calabria. In the mind of the founder, the apostolate of this fledgling institution had to stand out for its humility, generosity, serving under the radar in every modest and small mission. At the service of the most underprivileged and neglected social groups, in places where others found it difficult to operate. The charism of the Institute is oblational. It is born of the Eucharistic sacrifice, and through it is consumed in the light of Christ, freely offered for the glory of the Father and the salvation of humankind. Coniata had meditated deeply the prophetic announcement of Jesus' mission from Isaiah. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. Like a lamb that is led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Pastoral charity was characterized by collecting the crumbs of the apostolate, as he would say, at the service of the local church, preferably operating in small towns where no other religious institutions were present. Bishop Coniata would tell his spiritual daughters, "Remain small and limited in what you do. Love the fact that you are small. This is how the Lord wants you. Missionaries without the applause of the people, in towns most in need of spiritual help. The oblates are dedicated to the education of children and youth in oratories, catechesis, schools, workshops, summer missions, and with widespread activities for families. Their educational method and style of work and prayer are typically Salesian: the preventive system, pastoral charity, simplicity, joy, unshakable faith, and family spirit. Between 1936 and 1938, the Institute, led by Bishop Coniata, expanded considerably, extending its pastoral activity into the various regions of southern Italy. Some members of the clergy began to criticize and oppose Bishop Coniata, accusing and slandering him in the Vatican circles. Pope Pius XI became aware of this and firmly defended Bishop Coniata, comparing his situation to a thorn stuck in his side that hindered his bold and courageous ministry. In the eye of the storm, the situation worsened with the opening of their mission in Casal Bruciato in Rome in 1937, an estate owned by Baron Fassini, a supporter of the fascist regime. Following moral scandals, this work was closed by the ecclesiastical authority at the request of Bishop Coniata. This triggered a fierce campaign of revenge against Coniata, led by none other than the religious women who had been expelled for their indiscipline and disobedience, and also by Baron Fassini. On December 20th, 1939, the Holy Office, on the basis of false accusations, declared their condemnation of Coniata. He was removed as Bishop of Bova, perpetually suspended from the episcopal order, dismissed as founder of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart. On January 5th, 1940, Bishop Coniata released his official communication regarding the judgment of December 20th, 1939. The Divine Master, in his infinite love, has approached us through his sufferings, reaching fulfillment on the cross. By this means, he invites us to draw close to him in order to establish intimate union with his divinity. For 12 years, between 1940 and 1952, Coniata was welcomed into the Salesian houses in Trento for 1 year, and then 11 years at Rovereto. Between 1952 and 1972, he resided in the Salesian house of Castello di Godego in Treviso, where he would remain until his death. Throughout these years, he found Bishop Antonio Mistrorigo to be a good friend and defender of his innocence. Per crucem ad lucem. On April 8, 1962, Pope John XXIII reinstated Coniata to the episcopal order. On August 6, 1963, Pope Paul VI assigned Bishop Coniata to the titular seat of Farsalo in Greece. Between 1963 and 1965, Coniata participated in the Second Vatican Council. On July 22, 1972, he died in Pellaro in Reggio Calabria, the place where the Salesian Oblate missionary movement had begun. On March 23, 1973, his mortal remains were buried in the chapel at the Generalate in Tivoli, Rome. misericordias Domini in aeternum cantabo. Today, the pastoral activity of the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart is at the service of young people, children, the sick, vocational animation, liturgical animation, and family ministry. The birth of the ALOS movement, the Salesian Lay Oblates Association. ALOS is a lay movement affiliated with the Salesian Oblates of the Sacred Heart, whose members live their Christian faith in the world, following the Oblate Salesian spirit, witnessing to their baptismal vocation and spreading the gospel of charity. Inspired by Christ, the Oblate, they participate in the life of the Church with a missionary spirit to promote love for neighbor and Christian conduct. On October 14, 1985, the centenary of the birth of the founder, the Oblate women arrived in Bolivia. On October 14, 2008, the Salesian Oblates of the Salesian Heart also reached Peru. On January 25, 2016, they were called to the service of the Apostolic Nunciature in Malta. April 15, 2020, the Congregation for the Causes of Saints announced that the Holy Father, Pope Francis, had given his consent to the opening of the cause of beatification of Bishop Giuseppe Cognata, SDB, Bishop of Bova. December 12, 2020, saw the opening of the diocesan inquiry in Tivoli, Rome. October 1st, 2020, the diocesan inquiry was concluded at the shrine of Our Lady of Fatima in Rome. A hymn of thanks goes up to the Lord for this first milestone. Our joy will be complete when the Church officially raises Bishop and Founder Cognata to the honors of the altar. We close with this quote from Bishop Giuseppe Cognata. "Be the aroma of Christ," says St. Paul. "You must spread the fragrance of Jesus around you with a desire for perfection and with the practice of the virtues dearest to him, humility and gentleness."
Ammetto che le domande me le hanno suggerite. Però credo che queste giornate siano un'ottima occasione per conoscere sempre meglio la nostra famiglia. Ora siamo pronti per entrare nel vivo di questa giornata. Come dicevo prima, quest'anno approfondiremo la strenna con la tavola rotonda in cui 4 nostri invitati ci aiuteranno ad approfondire 4 aspetti di questo sogno che ci fa sognare.
Hai detto bene, Giulia, ma a guidare questo momento non saremo noi. Invitiamo quindi sul palco il moderatore di questa tavola rotonda. Accogliamo con un forte applauso Tullio Luca.
Che viene là?
Tullio, ti lasciamo ora la parola chiedendoti di chiamare e presentare i nostri 4 invitati della famiglia salesiana. Un applauso di nuovo a Tullio.
Grazie a tutti, buongiorno, sono molto felice di essere qui e chiamo subito i nostri invitati che ci introdurranno nella riflessione sulla strenna e quindi chiamo Don Bruno Ferrero, un grande applauso, grazie, eccolo. La dottoressa Emilce Cuda, un applauso per cortesia, incoraggiamo, dov'è la dottoressa? Ecco la dottoressa. Don Rafael Bajarano, il salesiano. E la signora Blaska Merkak. Un grande applauso perché ci accompagneranno per tutta la mattinata nella riflessione con la strenna. Ecco, meno male, sono arrivate le sedie, ero un po' preoccupato. Diciamo. Eccoci qua. Mettetevi come ritenete. Perfetto. Allora, adesso ancora un saluto a voi che siete a Valdocco e a tutti coloro che sono collegati con i mezzi di comunicazione sociale. Come famiglia salesiana, ci è stato già detto, ci fermiamo dopo aver ascoltato il Rettor Maggiore ieri, che ci ha introdotto sulla Strenna, e ci fermiamo per riflettere tutti insieme sul sogno. Cercheremo di riflettere con la testa, ma anche col cuore, su come il sogno sia fondante nella nostra vita comunitaria di famiglia salesiana e personale. Ma infatti il sogno è stato fondante per Don Bosco, che addirittura ci ha messo 50 anni per trovare la forza, per metterlo a terra, tanto il sogno fosse stato sconvolgente per lui. E quindi possiamo immaginare quante chiavi di letture possa avere questo sogno per tutti noi. In questo confronto ci accompagneranno questi veramente bravi ospiti, che facciamo subito un applauso, no? Per incoraggiarli. Ciascuno di loro in questo primo momento avranno uno spazio per introdurvi un po' al loro argomento, e per questo motivo do subito la parola a Don Bruno Ferrero. Ora, Don Bruno Ferrero lo conosciamo, però ecco, lo ricordiamo, prete salesiano, attualmente dirige il bollettino salesiano, mensile di oltre 500.000 di copie. È appassionato di temi educativi, ha fondato, lavorato in diverse riviste e periodici educativi. Ma forse Don Bruno è più noto come scrittore di libri a carattere educativo, libri di storie brevi per il risveglio spirituale degli adulti e soprattutto libri di fiabe e racconti per insegnanti e catechisti che vogliono comunicare con i bambini e i ragazzi, libri che hanno avuto una grande diffusione e che sono stati tradotti in tante lingue. Ecco, Don Bruno, lasciamo a te iniziare questo bel momento. Grazie. Un applauso ancora. Grazie.
Grazie. Spero si senta bene, perché ero in una parrocchia qui vicino dove sono stato tanti anni, quando è venuto il cardinale per la visita ufficiale, con tutto ben vestito, ha cominciato la messa con il cappello, tutte quelle cose che hanno con molta solennità, nel nome del Padre, e poi anche lui ha cominciato a trafficare con questo aggeggio e dice: c'è qualcosa col microfono, e tutta la gente: è con il tuo spirito. Io mi fido del mio spirito. Seguirò quello che è scritto anche sul libretto come aiuto per i traduttori, così è più semplice. Poi nella seconda parte si può tranquillamente così allargare un po' l'argomento. Quello che mi interessa è il tema vocazione. Il titolo che ho messo è Genesi di una vocazione. E come è nata questa vocazione di San Giovanni Bosco? Così nascono le nostre vocazioni. E non bisogna mai dimenticarlo. La vocazione è la cosa più importante che esiste nella vita di ogni persona. Allora, 200 anni fa, un ragazzino di 9 anni che era povero, a volte ci dimentichiamo di quanto fosse povera la situazione e malandata a quel tempo, e come mamma Margherita fosse carica di debiti, ed era sotto processo e nessuno, se non i suoi fratelli, l'hanno aiutata. Quando si va a vedere la casetta del Colle, molti si dimenticano di una cosa che ha una fortissima analogia poi con Valdocco. Se la guardate bene, quella che era soltanto un deposito di attrezzi agricoli non ha la parete di fondo, è soltanto una tettoia appoggiata alla casa che sta dietro. Sarà lo stesso per la prima Cappella Pinardi, senza la parete di fondo. È il segno della povertà assoluta. E così era per questo ragazzino, e fece questo sogno. Lo raccontò al mattino a madre, nonna, fratelli, che la presero tutti sul ridere. E la nonna, che era la più saggia della casa, concluse: non bisogna badare ai sogni. Molti anni dopo, questo ragazzino, diventato adulto, scriverà: io ero del parere di mia nonna, tuttavia non mi fu mai possibile togliermi quel sogno dalla mente. È una frase di un'importanza unica. Quel sogno rimarrà per sempre perché gli darà la forma di quello che lui diventa. Perché non era un sogno come tanti altri. Si dice i sogni muoiono all'alba, questo non è morto all'alba e non è morto mai, che adesso è il nostro e non lo faremo morire. Allora, alcune cose semplici. Il primo è un ordine. A volte si dimentica che è un ordine. Gesù, quando passa e chiama i suoi discepoli, dice: seguimi. Cosa dice a Levi, che è seduto tranquillo? Alzati, andiamo. Non fa lungo discorso. È lo stesso così. Don Lemoine racconta il sogno. Questo sogno sarà raccontato in 1000 modi, non in un modo soltanto. E tornerà tante volte nella vita di Don Bosco. E lo riassume così Don Lemoine. Gli era parso di vedere il Divin Salvatore vestito di bianco, raggiante per luce splendidissima, in atto di guidare una turba innumerabile di giovani. Rivolto a lui aveagli detto: vieni qua, mettiti alla testa di questi fanciulli e guidali tu stesso, non fai complimenti. Dice: vieni qui e guidali. Ma io non sono capace, rispondeva Giovanni. Quante volte dirà: è difficile, come faccio? Il Divin Salvatore, insistente imperiosamente, è un bellissimo aggettivo, imperioso è questo comando, finché Giovanni si pose a capo di quella moltitudine di ragazzi e cominciò a guidarli, giusto il comando che era gli stato fatto. È esattamente come il seguimi di Gesù. Seguimi. È anche un ordine, non un invito semplice. Secondo, questo è il segreto della gioia, ed è bello il quadretto. A chi lo va a raccontare tutto contento questo bambino? Dobbiamo, penso, spesso ricorrere alle testimonianze dei processi diocesani, anche di Gesù, dove persone che l'hanno conosciuto dicono quello che hanno visto e sentito e sono sotto giuramento. E dice Don Rua, al processo di beatificazione: mi raccontò Lucia Turco, appartenente a famiglia dove Don Bosco si recava sovente a trattenersi coi di lei fratelli, cioè i suoi piccoli compagni di gioco, e glielo dice, e sentite come lo dice: lo videro arrivare più giulivo del solito. Interrogato quale ne fosse la causa, rispose che nella notte aveva avuto un sogno che tutto l'aveva rallegrato. Era felice di quello che aveva sognato. Allora la gioia è la seconda cosa, è la gioia vera. E terzo, perché questa gioia nasce dalla risposta che si dà. La domanda è uguale per tutti, quando si nasce. Bene, vuoi una vita qualunque o vuoi cambiare il mondo? Tutti hanno questa domanda. Cosa vuoi, una vita qualunque? Vedremo, Don Bosco cambierà il mondo. Il termine Wonka, il film Wonka, a cui magari mi riferirò anche dopo, alla fine finisce proprio così. Bene, adesso andiamo a cambiare il mondo. Credo che anche un convegno come questo dovrebbe finire così. Andiamo a cambiare il mondo adesso, perché questo era quello che chiede in fondo il sogno. Magari della vocazione possiamo poi ancora parlare. Che come dice Frank, c'è il senso della vita e va bene, quella è una cosa filosofica bella grande, perché siamo qui e dove andiamo, ma la cosa più importante è il senso nella vita, quello di tutti i giorni. E c'è un termometro unico per sapere se abbiamo azzeccato la vocazione. Se quando ti alzi al mattino sei felice di quello che ti aspetta e di quello che devi fare, hai la vocazione giusta. Quarto, è un segno dall'alto. Quando Don Bosco deve fare il documento in seminario per scrivere le ragioni della sua vocazione, ha una frase molto molto bella. Dice: il sogno di Morialdo mi stava sempre impresso. anzi era altre volte rinnovato in modo assai più chiaro. Il sogno tornerà e sarà sempre più chiaro, fino alla fine in quel bellissimo sogno che è quello di Barcellona. Quello è da rileggere tutti i giorni, quanto è bello per quello che significa anche per Don Bosco. Lui aveva benissimo riconosciuto la Madonna e Gesù, non è che si chiedeva ma chi sono quelli che mi hanno parlato. Lui lo sapeva chi gli aveva parlato, l'aveva capito benissimo, però è ancora abbastanza umile, dice io non so però se avrò la forza di fare tutto questo, però non è ancora arrivato a capire che l'ordine è chiaro, ma piano piano lui si fida e va avanti. C'è un quinto elemento, l'assistenza continua. Intesi poi da altri che egli chiese, sempre la testimonianza di Lemoine questa, come farò io ad aver cura di tante pecore e tanti agnelli? Dove troverò i pascoli per mantenerli? È molto intelligente, Giovannino Bosco, e sa che questa è una gran difficoltà. Passerà la vita a cercare il modo di mantenere i tanti agnelli. E credo che molti salesiani oggi stanno facendo la stessa cosa, riuscire a trovare il modo di mantenere tanti, non solo giovani e poveri e fragili che sono sbandati. La signora gli rispose, questo è
Heaven told John,
quasi il nostro motto.
and this has to be really like our motto, do not be afraid, I will assist you. And then she disappeared. Don't be afraid.
È la stessa cosa.
How many times the gospel tells us, do not be afraid. Sixth point, this teacher who helps Don Bosco constantly is a mother, but also a teacher, especially in the times of Don Bosco Maestra, a teacher were all the leaders, whether you were a doctor or a pharmacist, the ones who were able to guide. But especially this maestra was a woman and she was a mother. And so the mystery and the miracle of motherhood and womanhood can never be exhausted. So he's telling a story, the word went around that they voted a woman to be pope.
Madre di Dio. E pensate cosa vuol dire questo?
Imagine what it means to refer to Mother of God. When the council declared Mary the Mother of God, that God had a mother, we're going back to the 4th century. Well, this meaning of Mary as mother, as Mary as teacher and guide of Don Bosco is precisely in her power as Mother of God. And she reveals to Don Bosco not just the mission, but also a method, never with violence, but with kindness and gentleness, tenderness, just like a mother shows her children. And so this is why the motherhood and the role of Mary as mother and guide is so important. And we need so much to learn how to be motherly, even as men, to be tender, to be caregivers. We are stuck in the desert as regards to our sentiments for young people. So much confusion. This mother who was a guide gave Don Bosco his mission. She says to him in the dream, and they're so simple, but they could be deep in so many ways, be humble, make yourself robust, humble, and strong if you're going to fulfill this message. Who is this mission destined to? Well, she makes it clear. These were the children in the dream turned into animals. They were wild animals, and these are Don Bosco's boys. So the mission is revealed to him. The maestra, the teacher, shows John his mission. Here is your field where you must work. Continued the lady, make yourself humble, strong, robust. And so go into the peripheries, go to where people are underserviced.
uno di quelli che mi piace di più. Sono tante versioni.
And so within this vision, those to whom Don Bosco was sent are the most in need. As I looked around, says Don Bosco in the dream, I realized that those children had all fled, and in their place I saw a multitude of kids, dogs, cats, bears, and several under animals. The 10th point here, this is a major opus, a major work in his life. How many times the dreams come to Don Bosco when he is overcome by fatigue because of his dream. In the second dream he has in 1844, that reinforces the first one. He calls it the appendix of that first dream. John says this, overcome by fatigue, I wanted to sit down next to the road where she was leading me, but the shepherdess, Mary, invited me to continue on my way. After we walked a bit further, I found myself in a vast courtyard with a porch around it, and at the end of which was a church. Then I realized that 4/5 of those animals had become lambs, and there were more and more of these lambs. At that moment, several shepherds arrived to watch over them, but they only stayed for a short while and then left. And then something happened. It was amazing. Many lambs became young shepherds who grew up and took care of the others. Parentheses, those young lambs who became shepherds are Michael Rua and Caliero and the rest, the first generation of Salesians. Back to Don Bosco, he says, I wanted to leave in the dream, but the shepherdess invited me to look to the south. Look again, she told me, and I did. And as I looked south, I saw a beautiful, tall church. Imagine in the poverty where Don Bosco was living, the poor hovels that he was visiting to do ministry, his own experience sleeping under a staircase when he worked in Chieri. And then in this dream, Mary reveals to him this magnificent church, tall and beautiful. And Don Bosco says, I entered the church and I saw a huge banner on which was written, Ic domus mea, inde gloria mea. This is my house, and from here my glory will go forth. The dream pulls him out of the abyss of poverty into the grandeur of God's presence, concretely present in his midst to share with others. And so that's why when we enter the Basilica today, here in Valdocco, we are entering Don Bosco's dream. The last point, Don Bosco's testament. Pope Pius IX demands that Don Bosco writes the dream down in posterity for his spiritual sons. How does John begin his memoirs? He says, what good can these memoirs possibly serve? They will serve as a guide to overcome future difficulties by offering lessons from the past. These memoirs will serve to make known how God himself has guided everything at all time. It will serve my children as a pleasant diversion when they read about their father's antics. And they will read them with much more desire when called by God to give an account for my actions, and I will no longer be with them. But essentially, the memoirs are for us to remember that the Salesian mission was given by God, a mission through which God and Mary guided Don Bosco the whole time. And that's the point we have to never lose sight of.
Questo Chiapale intonava sempre il canto e poi Don Bosco andava avanti e le memorie biografiche descrivono come cantava a voce spiegata. Quando potranno leggere le cose cui prese parte il loro padre.
Imagine Don Bosco as a founder writing the memoirs, obeying the Pope, writing down these stories. For this purpose, when my sons read about my antics, their father's antics, and they will read them much more willingly after I have gone to heaven, and I am no longer with them. And so this is really at the basis of the first version of our constitutions, that we live in an act of faith with a deep sense of gratitude. This is how our constitutions begin, with a sense of humble gratitude. We believe that the Society of St. Francis de Sales came into being not by human design alone, but by the initiative of God. And that initiative of God was revealed the first time in the dream of 9 years. Thank you, Father Bruno.
Grazie Don Bruno, grazie. E adesso passiamo la parola alla dottoressa Denise Cuda, laica, viene dall'Argentina ed è attualmente il
life in
segretario della
abundance for our
Pontificia
young people.
Commissione per l'America Latina presso la Santa Sede. È inoltre membro ordinario della Pontificia Accademia delle Scienze Sociali e della Pontificia Accademia Pro Vita, consigliere CELAM, professore alla Loyola University di Chicago. È stata poi docente e ricercatrice presso diverse
She is a
università.
university professor and a researcher, led a study group as a follow-up to the encyclical Laudato Si. She works for the International Catholic Commission for Immigration.
Etica teologica cattolica nella Chiesa mondiale. Ha pubblicato diversi libri.
Working at the Vatican level, at the world level, as a lecturer, as a researcher.
Il sogno di Dio per la vita in abbondanza per tutti.
Her theme, God's dreams, life in abundance for our young people.
Grazie mille. Io parlerò italiano.
Thank you.
Male.
I will speak in Italian.
Perché sono dal fine del mondo, come dice il Papa Francesco.
Even though I'm from the end of the world, I'm from Argentina, but I will speak Italian. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you today. Thank you for this possibility.
Mi piacerebbe mettere in rapporto il sogno.
I will develop my presentation in 3 sections, and I will do this intermeshing the dream with the Pope Francis's social teachings. Pope Francis has given us many opportunities through his writings, telling us that we must organize hope. We must organize hope. This is absolutely very, very deep. It's not easy to understand unless we can't understand it unless we accept that God has a dream for each one of us. God's dream for each one of us is that we be the image of God, that each of us can be the image of God. To be the image of God means to have a dignified life. Because we speak about the dream, we speak about the meaning of the dream, we try to concretize the dream. But what is it we're trying to concretize per se? How do we understand what dream is? Can we listen to the dream and understand what our young people are dreaming today, wherever we come from? I have listened to many young people. One young man from Haiti, a little country in Latin America, and all he could tell me was this: we have no life, we have no life, we have no life. That's all he could say. He repeated it. When I told him, when I, as I'm a daughter of the Good Shepherd. I'm a past pupil that is a student in Argentina. And so the sisters of that school taught me and taught us that we have to try to be shepherdesses now of the young. And now I try to do that as a member of the Pontifical Institute for Central America. And so we're trying to put young people in dialogue with Pope Francis. I had begun a process that strove to create bridges for a dialogue between Pope Francis and young people, university students on various continents. First, with universities in America Latina, and then Asia, and then the South, and finally, we will be entering our network with universities in Europe starting in October next year. But in our work in Latin America, there was this young boy I spoke about from Haiti who could say only this: we have no life, we have no life. He had no power even to dream. And yet God's dream is that everyone, even the young in Haiti, have a dream. As Pope Francis says, like he told the young people in Lisbon this summer, all of us, every one of us, has to have a dream. And we can make that dream concrete.
La dignità.
What's the dream? Dignity. Our dream is dignity. To have life is to have dignity, not a life that is deprived of dignity. We're not just an animal. We're not a pet. Having dignity is not, having a dream is not just to have enough to eat, but it's to have a dignified life. This is how we become the image of God. And so this is a central theme that Pope Francis has in his heart when he tells us that we must organize hope to give a dream to our young people. We have to organize their dreams, which means to organize hope. Because hope, like we all know so well, is a virtue, a theological virtue. In the theological virtues, it's a supernatural gift that has the possibility of moving our hearts, moving us to become more like the God in whose image we are made. But today, in the world, this is a question that we must chew on in these days. Today, in the world, who is it that organizes the hope of our young people? Are we sure that we're doing that? Is the school doing that? Is university doing that? Are we sure that we are listening deeply to what the young people are telling us? Are we working to help them organize their hopefulness? Or is there another voice between technology and the virtual reality and consumerism that is taking hold of their hearts and conditioning their dream and directing it elsewhere than to the image of God? Dreams cannot exist in a culture of individualism. Our dreams draw us into community. And so to talk about dreams today is not something romantic.
Querida Amazonia. E querida Amazonia no parla come un politico di quattro necessità. No? La politica
He's
parla
not
della
speaking, the Holy Father doesn't speak about the, as a politician. Pope Francis does not speak as a politician. He speaks about four dreams. Four dreams. This is very important because these four dreams move in the heart of a person. The dream that moves a person forward isn't a necessity. It's a dynamism of hope that grows from inside.
muove a unirsi per salvarsi, dice il Papa Francesco. Per questo nostra giovani alla periferia,
Pope Francis say that our dreams move us towards others, whether it's in South America or Africa or Latin America. It's the cry of the poor of the earth that don't have a life, that are deprived of hope. How can we understand that this cry of hope that is theirs needs to be organized to deepen that hope? We can't orient them towards a false fulfillment of that hope.
della teologia, perché la ideologia è un discorso sopra un'idea.
The false answers to hope is ideology.
Teologia è un discorso sopra
Theology, rather, is very different. Theology gives hope in the dream of God. Ideologies take that dream away. And so, in his Amazonia talks, he talks about the dream as cultural, social, ecological. And so he's calling us to be prophetic, someone who decries and names injustice for what it is, and a prophet who announces a way forward, a way in a spirit of communitarian involvement. And so I would invite you then to wind up my talk here.
Come si dice, facendo una relazione tra il sogno di Don Bosco.
I invite you to make a comparison, an integration between how the Holy Father is speaking about hope and dreams, and interface that with Don Bosco's dream. Interweave Don Bosco's dream with the Holy Father's magisterium for social justice, that we might respond today in the light of Don Bosco's dream to the needs that the Holy Father are drawn to our attention. Who today can organize the dreams of young people? Don Bosco's dream can be an inspiration for us to do that.
Grazie Emilse per questi primi spunti del tuo intervento, questa idea
Thank you,
dell'organizzare la
Dr.
sicurezza
Kuda,
per i giovani
for this
sicuramente
first
anche la
contribution,
importante
helping us to organize the dreams as a Salesian family. And so we turn our attention now to our third speaker, to Father Rafael Bejarano.
caloroso benvenuto con un applauso. Così almeno ci teniamo anche un po' attivi, se no sono un po'...
Father Rafael is originally from Colombia. He's a member of the youth ministry department here at the General in Rome. And he's responsible for young people at risk. His Salesian experience brought him to work with many young people, lay people, innovating the way we do the region and innovating our outreach within the region for young people on the peripheries. Seeing in the poverty of the young the opportunity for a construction of a plan of action for the integral human development of young people. Today, Father Rafael will offer a reflection on how the dream can guide us not only personally, but also at a community level for each of our family member groups gathered and represented here today, all of whom are dedicated in some way to the youth ministry. So, thank you and welcome everybody. I am also delighted and very honored to be with you today in these spiritual Salesian Family Spirituality Days. I send my greetings to my fellow Roundtable conference givers and all of you who are participating. As Father Bruno said, the dream revealed to Don Bosco a course, and the Holy Mother gave him indications, concrete indications on the mission and on the method. And then the attitude he needs: make yourself robust, humble, and strong to live this mission. Also, Dr. Kuda called us to help organize the hope of the young. That's what the magisterium of Pope Francis is, to organize the hope of the young. And so our mission as Salesian family members, our spiritual offspring of Don Bosco and our forefathers and mothers, working together not just personally, but also institutionally. And in these days in which we live, remember, each morning, which is now a habit in our spiritual family days, we take time to recognize the work being brought forward by the various groups of our Salesian family, and always we present what the groups do at the level, at the institutional level, and how this work of theirs, this institutional work, realizes a change in the world, in the society in which they work, in the culture where they are present. Because the transformation of the world for the better is what the dream of Don Bosco is about. Wherever we are concretely present and working is where the dream continues to live. And so today, I want to speak about this. What are some of the institutional challenges facing us so that each family of the Salesian family might move forward together in a sense of unity, responding to the challenges of today? A lot of studies have found in this proposal of Don Bosco to be an agenda-setting plan for Don Bosco. That is, make yourself robust, humble, and strong, pointing out the direction of Don Bosco's mission. So today, I would like to propose an update to this plan according to the reality of today's Salesian family, not so much at a personal level, but at a community and institutional level. Since the mission entrusted to us in the law of each institute or group is addressed to its members who make up that corporate group. This is a corporate activity. We are not acting personally within our family members' groups. I'm suggesting that we place each Salesian family group that we belong to in the position of John's dream at age 9. And so be humble. Be humble. Humility allows us to detach ourselves from ourselves, to get out of the confinement to which our interests subject us, and to turn our regard towards others, towards our neighbor. As a church, it urges us to go towards the other, as Pope Francis has insisted on so many times, to be a church that goes out, and how he himself has reinforced in the concept of social friendship that accompanies the synodal approach. And so having a sense, a concern for the other, thinking of the other, establishing healthy and inclusive relationships that lead us to give energy to the various societies in which we live as spaces of human warmth. This is social friendship. Humanity has undergone a very difficult process of change of mentality, change of eras, change of policies. The way in which people and peoples relate to each other has also changed. But it seems that the propensity for war, discrimination, xenophobia, the maltreatment and the abuse of those who are different, of those who do not know each other, has not changed in the human heart. How long will it take to move towards a deeply rooted justice and peace for all? What processes still need to be activated in today's world to overcome the hatred that leads us to indifference and situations of violence? This attitude indicates that as a Salesian family, we have the opportunity to evaluate the actions we are taking in our efforts to evangelize, and an opportunity to engage in a proper interpretation of the context in which we find ourselves, where we as a Salesian family is putting our focus and our energy, also our resources, because they are limited. The Salesian family seeks to respond to the needs of young people and communities in the different forms of suffering that affect them. For this reason, it is worth opening a dialogue between the language of setting links to the Church's social doctrine and the proposals and discourses with which civil society seeks to interpret and respond to the problems of marginalization. The expression social friendship manages to reduce the gap between these two worlds, the world of faith and the secular world, which seems to have no common ground. Talking about social friendship in Salesian terms leads us to consider first the people we meet every day in the personal face-to-face encounter with an elderly person, man or woman from our neighborhood, or with a young man or woman whose attitude towards life seems indifferent to us, but whose eyes reflect a deep need for accompaniment, or when we observe some difficult contexts in which many children may make their way in life. There we discover the sacred space made of real people, which give us the inspiration to accompany these real people in strengthening their personality. And we do so not only as individuals, but as institutions that offer an interdisciplinary perspective that comes from the gospel. And so this is the heart of being humble, coming out of our comfort to be present to others who are in need, helping young people develop in a supportive environment. Point number 2, be humble, be strong. Be strong. What does it mean for us as a Salesian family to become strong as an institution? Like Don Bosco, we too, as a Salesian family, are experiencing rather turbulent times in the history of humanity. It's necessary to strengthen who we are as an institution by virtue of the responsibility that God entrusts to us to defend the dignity of the most vulnerable.
We must rid ourselves of the rifts that weaken us and jeopardize our credibility and our ability to negotiate with those who dominate the public sphere. The powers of personalism, genericism, activism, disintegration, and improvisation. We need to free ourselves from these forces that pull us apart. What does personalism mean? The desire not to work in our projects, not believing in the common project, but to want to do my own thing, the Lone Ranger syndrome. I'm the one who know best. I'm the one you refer to. I'm the one that will make this happen. Personalism is a trap. We must also avoid the trap of genericism. What does that mean? Considering that any proposal is valid, everything is good for evangelization. Not true. When we think we don't need a process, when we don't need a plan that unites us as a community, that's a trap. We have to avoid also the trap of activism. What does that mean? Do, without reflection, without thinking, without planning, from a theological perspective, from an institutional perspective. Why are we doing this? And where is this going? And what good are we achieving? And what need are we addressing? Another trap is disintegration. This is a very dangerous trap. What does it mean? Well, it's the trap of the ego in our communities, within our structures, within our institutions. We see religious members, we see consecrated members, committed lay people who perforce have to work in little groups, but not in a team. And so we separate the work. And so let's separate the project. You do this, I'll do that. And let's just work in our little playground, in our little courtyard. What happens? A monster grows, a Frankenstein, a bunch of pieces patched together that creates an ugly whole. A monster with many parts that doesn't generate life, but destruction. Disintegration is a problem because it leads to destruction of our institutes. Finally, we have to avoid the trap of improvisation. What does that mean? Not working in a concerted way together, doing it off the cuff. Okay, and so let's avoid these risks, and that's how we will be strong. Let's move to be robust or be rogetic. A robust and energetic approach to the Salesian family as an institution today called for if we consider that changing wolves into sheep requires managing our pastoral wisdom, making our proposals systematic. We manage every day, every aspect of our life, the meals, our interpersonal relationships, and so we need to also manage the knowledge we have. We have to organize our knowledge, organize what we do and why we do it. In different groups within the Salesian family, we are very good, we are very intelligent, but maybe we're not so good at expressing what we know and how we do it. Much of articulation fails because we don't have the capacity to organize and our experience and give order to our educative experiences. And so we need to take care of the people with whom we work. We need to develop a culture of secure environments. Remember that we have this challenge before us. We have to defend as a main dream the dignity of every person. And so we have to have methods and we have to have tools in the church and in our society to guarantee the dignity of every person within our institutions. This trap, if we don't do this, we fall into the trap. We talk about the abuses of abuse, not just sexual abuse, that's one abuse, but that's not the only one.
but for an equally poisonous abuse that many religious and Salesian family member groups is the disease and the abuse of the conscience of the other, the abuse of the spirituality of the other. And so we have to work together to guarantee dignity even in these areas and to guarantee this dignity as an institution through the processes, through the awareness that we are a community for the salvation of all. Pope Francis has insisted much on synodality, and today the Universal Church is committed to recovering this term in order to remain faithful to communion and that unity to which the Spirit of God calls us. The Salesian family, being an active part of the Church, takes up synodality and configures it to all of its works through educative and pastoral communities, EPCs, according to this identity of communion. This is the great opportunity we have to become and to show ourselves as church that is open towards others. And so we have to create a space where we can all work together and act humbly with energy and become ever more robust to take care of this charism that we have towards those who are most in need, bringing to them, like Don Bosco did, hope and a dream for their own dignity.
Rafael, per questo parallelismo.
Thank you for drawing these parallels between the robust, humble, and strong of Don Bosco on a personal level to the same need as an institution to become strong, humble, and robust. We move to our fourth speaker, Dr. Blaska Merka. She's from Slovenia.
Che ha un cuore salesiano.
She has a very Salesian heart
Ha maturato una grande esperienza come
and has developed a deep experience as a special educator in the accompaniment of young people directly and as well through organizing programs. She's a Salesian cooperator ever since 2014, even though she was involved in Salesian circles since she was 11 years old, and since 2022 is a member of the World Consulta for Salesian Cooperators. After her studies, she began to work immediately on projects with Salesian Youth Ministry in Slovenia, and in 2019 she's been working with young people with intellectual challenges. She is also part of the formation team for young Salesians in Slovenia. Finally, today she will offer us some reflections on how can we help each one of us, how can we commit ourselves to help young people in accompaniment? How do we help them move from wolves to sheep? What does it mean to accompany young people in their journey of maturation?
Per diventare agnello e infine pastore. Grazie Blaska.
Primo, mi scusi, io non parlo italiano.
Ma c'è la traduzione.
So she says, I don't speak Italian. Excuse me. She's going to speak in English, so see you later.
Hello, everyone. So, as mentioned, I will share my own experience of Don Bosco Dream, how I transformed personal and also during my work with young people and how I see the work with young people today. I would like to share 5 points, not 2, 5 points, what I recognize that were and are important in my work, in my life. So first is the word change. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my background that you're going to understand better. I come from a traditional Christian family of 6. We are 4 children. And in my family, we went to the Mass only on Sundays, sometimes on Sundays, and of course at Christmas and Easter. And my parents, even if they didn't encourage us or go with us to the church, they said that we should go to catechesis until the confirmation. And then we are free to go. We don't have to go to the church anymore. At first, I didn't understand this. I was around 10 years when they told us this. And everything changed, this is the word change, when I was 11 years old. One of my friends invited me to summer oratorio that was prepared by sisters. And it was this kind of oratory that we slept there the whole week. This program was 3 weeks. And after the first week, I was so happy to be there. It was the first time that I heard about Don Bosco, about Mary, help of Christians, because I only know Mary. And also the first time that I met the sisters. And it was so strong, this experience, that I went home and I begged my parents to let me go to another week also. And because I can be really stubborn, and I was fighting like the wolves in Don Bosco dreams, they let me go. Not only the second week, but also the third week. So 3 weeks of oratory, I think it was enough that I had the desire for more. I wanted to know more about Don Bosco, Mary, help of Christians. I want to know more. So that's why the sisters, I believe they recognized something in me. They invited me to all the programs that they prepared. So I was sheep by the sisters, but at home I was a wolf because I had to fight with my parents all the time that I could go. But I managed. Then the second word I want to share with you is companion. When I was 15 years old, I went to high school, and my classmates were also part of the group that were going to sisters. And for me, it was easier than to go to the programs because I said to my parents, okay, I'm going with my friends. I didn't mention the sisters. I was also then animator, and I want to point out one great leader that was leading our group. It was Sister Moica Pipan. She was 4 years in this parish, and she was the one where I really felt that she heard me. She wanted me to do well. She gave us the opportunity to be a leader. She trusted us. Sometimes she was also our personal chauffeur. But she was really there for us. She loved what we loved. She guided me, but still she let me, at the end, choose my own path. I think it's also important for the educators to leave the freedom to choose. The third part is open your heart and eyes. I know it's a little bit cliché, but it's important to remember all the time of this phrase. After my high school, I went to Ljubljana, to the capital city, to study, and then there I joined the Salesians. And I worked in the youth pastoral as animator first, and after my studies of the special education, I didn't know where to work, so the delegate, Marko Košnik, he invited me to work in the youth office, and I said first, 1 or 2 years, okay. I stayed 8 years in the youth pastoral office, and I worked with young people, with animators. What was really important for me was that I had time to meet them. Even if I was working in the office, if somebody came, that I put away the computer and everything, that I was there for them. So my goal was to be with the young people and work with and for them. And I remember during this period of time, one sister came to the office. I was alone. And she said, Blaška, you have a Salesian heart. And then she pointed out of the office and she said, but this is not the field of your work. And I was like, what? I like to work here. I like to work with young people. This is my field of work. Because I didn't understand. After some years now, I understand that I'm not for the office. But it was really stuck with me. And also now when I reflected the dream, because Mother Mary said to Don Bosco, this is your field. And in me, for me, it was the different way around. The fourth point is being authentic. I learned that young people can really, really, really catch up when you're not authentic and sincere. Don't pretend to be something that you're not. Don't pretend that you love something of the young people if you're not. You can also tell them, look, I don't like this stuff. But you just don't pretend. Now when I work with young people with disabilities, with behavioral issues, and so they really test me a lot about being authentic. But even if it's difficult, I try to be sincere with them. I also tell them, look, I have a bad day today. Just be sincere. Don't fake it. Even if we are educators, even if we are part of the Salesian family, we don't have the advantage or privilege of that we are always sincere, authentic, and happy. We don't. And the last point, that sometimes is difficult. It's difficult to accept that sometimes it doesn't go like we expected or we wanted because of our own egoism. And Don Bosco gave us a great example that he didn't work alone. He worked together with others, but he had also a great teacher, and he gave the teacher also to us. Listen to the teacher. I'm talking about Mary. Okay. I have to speak slowly. Do you repeat everything? No?
It's okay.
Okay. About Mary. Now I lost my words. No. So he gave us a teacher, and I work in the public dormitory. We are not talking about God, but I try to show them God and Mary, and they ask also then about it. But I wanted to tell that if it's difficult, sometimes I have this challenge to face some young person who is in distress, who is angry. And before I meet this young person, before I go to the room, I always pray. Not because, oh, this is going to be miraculous, no, because when I'm facing this young person, I'm not facing him alone. I go with my teacher. I always say, Mother, Heart of Christian, pray for me, guide me, and just help me. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Just for the end, because we don't have time anymore. Through my experience and through the young people that I met, I'm really hopeful for our Salesian family because we have so much to offer and we have so much to give to the world and the young people. And if we receive this legacy, don't hold it by yourself, okay? Give it to others. Thank you.
Grazie Blasca per questa sintesi che si vede proprio che non è qualcosa che abbiamo letto, ma è qualcosa che viviamo e questo è sempre molto, molto bello.
And so thank you for
Io veramente vi ringrazio tantissimo a nome
thank you for all of you who gave us this this morning of discussion, of reflections, very rich and very, very diversified.
ma siete stati bravissimi tutti,
You were all excellent,
anche generosi, e quindi vuol
very
dire che
generous.
adesso abbiamo
And
un
so
po' meno
now
tempo del previsto.
we have a little less
Io però
time for our
ho
small
una
group work.
domanda
But I want to leave you each with a small
per
question.
ciascuno di voi.
It's a question that was given to me for each of you. This is the hardest thing now.
2 minuti.
But you have 2 minutes only to give your answer. So just keep it simple, go to the heart.
Però ecco,
And please breathe as you speak. Take it
se
slow.
possibile,
Here's the
così
question.
procediamo bene nei tempi, con tranquillità. Ecco. La prima domanda, riprendiamo il giro come abbiamo iniziato.
First question
Don Bruno.
to Father Bruno.
Ovviamente è un domandone, però noi
It's a huge question.
2 minuti, quindi quello che si può. La domanda
You say what you can in the time limits.
Ma alla fine di tutto,
At the end of it all,
cosa è la vocazione?
what is a vocation?
Facciamo un applauso di incoraggiamento.
Lo dovrei sapere per forza perché la vocazione è la cosa più importante di ogni persona.
What is the most important vocation? What is a vocation? End of the day, a vocation is the most important thing we have.
Quello che sei.
It's
Una
who
piccola
you
storia,
are.
piccolissima, più breve che si può.
A little story.
Un bambino che va a scuola passa
A
davanti a
little
un
boy goes to
laboratorio e vede
school,
un
walks in
uomo che
front of
fa punta con la pietra,
of a
con tutte le sue
workshop,
forze, con
and
tutte le
he
sue
sees a man smashing against a rock with his
è
hammer.
tutto incuriosito da quello che
And the
vede.
boy, all
Quando
curious,
riprose alcune
says,
settimane dopo, vede
every
che al posto
time
della
when he passed
pietra
by
c'era
a
un
few weeks
bellissimo
later, instead
leone.
of the stone, there was a
Allora
beautiful
chiede a
lion.
quell'uomo,
And
Signore,
so the boy asked the
ma come
artisan,
faceva a sapere che c'era
Sir,
il leone
how did
dentro?
you know that there was a lion inside?
Ecco, in ciascuno, in ogni persona
Well,
c'è
that's an image for vocation. In each one of us, there is a
è lo
lion,
scalpello,
and the lion is
è
the
quello che lo fa
vocation.
venire
The
fuori,
vocation is the sculptor.
è quello che
The
che ognuno
vocation is what
sente di
draws
dover
out of
essere.
us
Non
who
è
we are,
questione solo
what
di
we feel like we
vocazione per
need
i
to
preti,
be.
per le suore,
Not just a vocation to priesthood or
ogni
sisters,
persona
but
ha
it's every
una
person
sua
who has a
vocazione ed è quello che lo
vocation,
rende felice.
and that's what
Ed
makes
è
you
la cosa che
happy.
dobbiamo cercare di più, ma
What we need to
soprattutto
search
uno
for
di
in
quelli
life
che
most
fanno
of
gli
all,
educatori. È la
especially for
cosa
those who are
più importante
educators,
che devono fare, perché
is
ognuno
to
ha
help young people
quello che sembra
discern their
più
vocation.
lontano dei
And every
piccoli possa
child, even the
scoprire
one who seems more far
che razza
away,
di
most
leone ci può essere
inaccessible,
dentro.
imagine what
Gli
beast of
esempi
a
ci sono,
vocation might abide within that young
Don
person's
Bosco
heart.
era
Vocations are
un
there.
gran
And Don
scopritore di
Bosco was a great
vocazioni.
sculptor of vocations.
Incredibile se leggete alcuni,
Incredible
insomma,
if we read all the
alcuni la
episodes of his
vocazione
life.
è stata scoperta mettendosi in testa la berretta di Don Bosco, come Don Ogni.
And so some people came to
Dice
know
che
their
quando c'era la
vocation simply by
funzione in
putting on Don
chiesa,
Bosco's beretta. They knew, they just
i
knew.
ragazzi
When
erano
there was a
schierati in
function in
chiesa,
church and all the
Don
kids were
Bosco
there in
guardava una
church,
cosa.
Don Bosco would look at one
C'era
thing.
ogni tanto una
There
fiammella
was every
che si
now and then
staccava dalle candele dell'altare
a little
e
candle
girava
that
per tutta la
pulled
chiesa
apart
finché andava a
from the antles,
posarsi sulla
and
testa
he
di
walked
qualcuno.
around with the candle
E
and he would
quello
place it
era
above the head of
qualcosa di
someone,
pure
and he would
particolare.
know that
Non tutto è
there
andato
was something
liscio,
particular
ma
in
guai a chi non
that
scopre la propria
young heart.
vocazione.
But
Si sentirà veramente
the ultimate
sempre in
mission in life is
difficoltà
to
con
find
la vita.
your own vocation
Tutti,
and to live
che
it.
si sposano,
Otherwise, you
anche
will be
quelli
constantly unsettled. Whether
che
you're married, whether you're
devono
single, whether
scegliere
you're
un lavoro,
consecrated,
un
if you
mestiere,
don't understand
è
and
la
live
cosa più
your
importante in
vocation,
assoluto.
you will never have peace in your
Grazie.
heart.
Ed ora
Question now to our second
una
panelist,
domanda a
Dr.
Emilce.
Emilce Kuda.
Ascoltandoti, come il sogno
Listening
di
to
Don
you,
Bosco
I
entra
have to
nella
ask,
giustizia sociale a
how
cui sta
does Don
facendo
Bosco's
operazione?
dream enter into social justice for young people? Pope Francis, on January 8th this year, gave a beautiful talk to the diplomatic corps at the Holy See. And he said to them, we are in a war, and not just the wars we know about from the news and in Ukraine, the Middle East, and Somalia, but he says, well, we're some kind of a war, I can't make out the word, but we're in a particular war that targets, in a special way, young people. In the sex trade, in the work trade, in the trafficking of organs, human organs, and the sex travel industry, etc. And so for Pope Francis, the solution has three dimensions: social dialogue, education, and care. The challenge then is, how do we educate for care of those most in need? And so this is a challenge for the Salesian family in relation to young people who is committed to the field of education. How do we educate for care? Care not only of oneself, but the care we need to show the human family. How do we understand the Pope's thinking? We have to create families. How do we take care of the environment of our common home? How do we create a sense of care for all people, that all might be free of exploitation, sex trade, etc.?
Don Rafael.
Don Rafael.
Come la missione giovanile nei gruppi della famiglia salesiana,
Let's talk about youth ministry within the Salesian family groups. Many times we want to involve, many adults want to be involved in youth ministry, but they don't have the time or the way to be involved. What do you say to that? A very important attitude, which was in my second point, how do we become strong, has to do with learning other languages. As a Salesian family, we're a huge family. We are very auto-referential. We can put ourselves at the center. We have our language. We have our messages, but we tend to speak to ourselves. And it can be a block to the way we talk with civil society, with other members of the same Salesian family. And so there could be another trap that we can fall into. We become insular and non-communicative within the church, within the very Salesian family. And so the need then to learn the language of socialization, which allows us to be in dialogue with families, with social groups, with those who don't believe in God, but who share with us nonetheless our vision for the good of young people. And so we have to develop an attitude of learning more languages. When I'm standing before a young person, when I'm standing before an old person, when I'm standing before someone who doesn't believe, my attitude has to be one of Jesus. I need to look at that person in front of me, whoever it is. I have to look at Jesus in that person. And that allows me then to be aware of what I need to say to this person, what kind of dignity, what do I need to express to convey to them their dignity? I'm not their savior. I'm not the superior one. I'm no better than them, but I am the one who can convince that person that they have dignity. My manner of being with them, the way I speak, can give them a taste for their own dignity. And so I need to assume the attitude of seeing Jesus in me, in the most difficult person with whom I am asked to interact. Every encounter is an opportunity to speak that language of dignity in civil circles, in non-religious circles, and even among our co-members of our Salesian family. Because human rights are basic rights, and they speak to the dignity of every person. Every person has the equal share of gospel values in them. So our approach to respecting the rights of each person, I see before me a young person, an old person. I look in front of me a person laden with human rights, a person to whom I can only dream to make aware of the rights that they have. I need to promote their awareness of their dignity, and then I have to defend their dignity if it's being violated by other forces. And so this is our way of saying, this is how I find Jesus in that person. And then in that way be able to enter in dialogue in a language that is amenable to any kind of context.
Sì, no, facciamo gli applausi, ci mancherebbe, come no? Poi noi facciamo uno collettivo tutti insieme. L'ultima domanda per Blaska, che ci ha regalato tanto dell'esperienza personale, ne hai fatto cenno, però magari se puoi dirci una parola in più sulle difficoltà. Sulle difficoltà che l'educatore incontra nel suo cammino, proprio nella relazione col giovane. A quel punto, se puoi darci qualche suggerimento di come affrontarle.
I didn't understand, but he translated me before, so don't worry. Yes, the difficulties. I said already that if we are sad, if we feel defeated, if we are the things that doesn't go as we wanted, as we dreamt, it's good that we accept this. Accept and also share with someone. We are all part of Salesian family. We are all part of some groups. When I had this experience, I turned to my cooperators. I was in a time when I couldn't pray by myself, so I asked them to pray for me, and it was easier. One of Salesian told me, you have to find your joy again. First, look at outside, because we can find joy, or we can find also only love outside. And then when you find it, go inside and try to find the joy on inside. If we have difficulties when we work with young people, if we are sad or something like that, share with them also this, because they really accept this good. Then they will also see that we as educators, we are not some powerful human beings, but we are just human like them.
Grazie, grazie molto. Un applauso a tutti. A questo punto.
And so now, thank you one and all.
Ringraziamo tantissimo i nostri relatori. Credo che ci siamo potuti rendere conto di come non solo entrando in
You have all given us a possibility to not only how to enter the Basilica, but how to enter into the dream of Don Bosco in a particular way. And so, we're going to have an occasion now to go deeper. You will be invited to join a small discussion group. Each of these presenters will speak in the language in which they spoke. So if you spoke English, I think the most obvious place for you to go is with Dr. Blaska. The translators will not be part of the next session. So you need to go to a group that speaks in a language that you understand.
A Tullio, i 4 relatori che hanno condiviso con noi tanti spunti di riflessione.
So final words of thanks to Tullio for moderating the panel and for the 4 speakers who presented.
La vocazione di ognuno è in qualche modo il sogno che
The vocation of each of us is God's dream for us. And so God communicates with us even through our dreams, which at times can be difficult to interpret right away, but because we have to train our hearts, we have to learn to be humble, robust, and strong.
Anche qualcosa di più. Tu, io, Giulia, tutti i presenti, siamo stati in qualche modo in questo sogno di 9 anni.
Imagine that each of us here are part of Don Bosco's dream, this dream that transforms wolves into sheep.
Sono orgogliosa di far parte di questa famiglia con tanti membri, tutti così diversi.
We're quoting some of the comments that were shared about this talk. I'm proud to be part of this family that allows so many possibilities for transforming the lives of the young. Final round of applause to recognize the good work done this morning.
Una famiglia così bella e così grande, e con questo applauso lanciamo un altro video di un altro gruppo.
We're going to watch another video now from the Salesian family, which is the past pupils of the Salesian sisters.
Hello everyone, welcome to this presentation of the Mornese Past Pupil World Confederation, past pupils of the Daughters of Mary Help of Christians, and the Mornese Association Onlus. In the next few minutes, we will take you on a journey through our commitment as lay people to the work of the Salesian sisters around the world. Inspired by our motto, hands in the world, roots in the heart. Let's get started. Our journey begins with the Mornese World Confederation of Past Pupils of the Daughter of Mary Help of Christians, founded in 1908 by Father Rinaldi. Our presence extends all over the world, working in deep synergy with the Salesian sisters. we collaborate with them to build a brighter future for society.
Para un futuro diferente en la sociedad.
We are proud to say that we not only assist the Salesian mission, but we also actively participate in it through the Morenese Onlus Association. When you truly internalize our motto, hands in the world, roots in the heart, you realize that it is not just a slogan. It is a call to action, to be a force for good in the world. Our partnership spans all continents and cultures. We are active on multiple fronts: education, healthcare, social services, and human rights advocacy. We work closely with our sisters. One of the missions we have is to help young people through... One of our missions is to help young people through scholarships, mentoring programs, and workshops, following Don Bosco's preventive system. But it's not just about classrooms. We are also deeply engaged in community development projects, providing clean water, working with youth, women, and families to help them develop their full potential, and creating safe spaces for those in need. Our associations have no borders. With members scattered throughout the world, we create a powerful network that amplifies the impact of our collective efforts. As we celebrate our successes and important milestones, we also honor the legacy of St. Mary Domenica Mazzarello, whose values guide us every step of the way. It is amazing to see what we can achieve when we work together, guided by our shared conviction in love, service, and compassion. The world needs positive change now more than ever. And through the participation of past pupils, lay past pupils, we are making that change a reality. Our involvement in the Morenese World Confederation and Association of Past Pupils is not just a commitment, it is a lifestyle. We want to make a difference by supporting children, young people, and women, putting into practice our motto, hands in the world, roots in the heart.
Bene, questo applauso lo continuiamo ancora più forte perché siamo salesiani e quindi vogliamo far sentire, no, la spiritualità dell'allegria che ci insegna Don Bosco.
Okay, so thank you for this testimony. We're a people of feast, of celebration. There are more than 4,000 people are following this event online. And so good on us for being able to create this experience together for so many people around the world. From Torino, we are reaching the world. Okay, I have to tune out, folks. I'll be back later.
Vorremmo fare qualche avviso, attenzione.
Sì, allora adesso faremo qualche avviso, quindi lo dirò lentamente in modo che tutti possano comprendere e i traduttori possano spiegare bene. Chiamo intanto Don Manolo qui sul palco perché ci aiuta un po' per i luoghi. Adesso ci sarà un piccolissimo break. Alle 11:30 ci sarà la possibilità di ritrovarci con i relatori della tavola rotonda a seconda delle lingue di appartenenza in vari spazi della casa e quindi gli italiani e i francesi avranno la possibilità di ascoltare Don Bruno Ferrero qui in teatro, quindi questo è semplice. Don Bruno Ferrero si fermerà in teatro, lingue italiano e francese. Don Rafael invece sarà alla Sala Cocco. Adesso Don Manolo ci spiegherà dove si trova, e qui italiano e portoghese.
Buongiorno a tutti. Per raggiungere la Sala Cocco basta salire al primo piano, quindi uscendo dal teatro si gira leggermente a destra, c'è una porta, una scala, e quando sale al primo piano si trova lì la Sala Cocco, molto facilmente.
Ok. Con Emilde invece nella Sala Don Bosco e la lingua è lo spagnolo.
Sia la Sala Don Bosco come la Sala Zigliotti, di cui ci parlerà dopo, si trovano nel cortile di Don Bosco di fronte alla Basilica. Quando siamo accanto alla statua di Don Bosco, Basilica a destra, le sale con nomi di rettori maggiori a sinistra.
Ok, infatti con Blasca, lingua inglese, ci troveremo proprio nella Sala
Zigliotti.
Zigliotti, ok. Zigiotti, ok. E quindi lo ripeto, Don Bruno Ferrero si fermerà qui in teatro, lingue italiano-francese. Don Rafael, la Sala Cocco, italiano e portoghese. Emilde, Sala Don Bosco, lingua spagnolo. Blasca, Sala Zigiotti, lingua inglese. Ok? Grazie. Grazie Don Manolo.
Prego, molto gentile.
Grazie. Un applauso. E il secondo avviso, attenzione, dopo il pranzo sono previste visite ai luoghi salesiani. Per aiutarvi con le indicazioni per questo momento chiamiamo a Don Michael. Don Michael? Una curiosità, Don Michael è anche uno dei nostri traduttori che stanno facendo un lavoro molto impegnativo. Facciamo un applauso a loro per farci vivere meglio.
E per tutti i traduttori.
Grazie.
Tutti i traditori. Bene.
Esatto.
In breve, dunque per queste visite, e poi faremo nelle varie lingue, no?
Esatto.
Sapete, abbiamo organizzato, no? Avete iscritti voi stessi nel il gruppo che volete visitare, di partecipare. Prendete magari il badge e notate l'ovale più lungo, indica la visita che farete. Mi raccomando, per rispettare le guide e gli ambienti dove andiamo e voi stessi che avete scelto, andate a quella visita. Siamo in 400 quasi. E se non ci dividiamo, secondo quello che è previsto, non si vive bene. Allora, vado avanti in italiano?
In English.
So the English group is very easy. What I'm talking about is the afternoon visits. There are only 2 English groups, so it's
Più
easier.
lentamente ci dicono, un po' più lentamente.
Slowly.
Slowly.
Okay, English people. We're talking about the groups that you're going to have for your tours after lunch. There's only 2, either the Barolo Oratory or the museum. The message I'm giving is simply this. After lunch, we will go out for those visits. In the courtyard, there will be signs to tell you where to go. If you're in the museum group, you go to the museum and look for your group name with the leader who is there. If you're going to the Barolo, I will meet you near the bar Barolo, okay, in the courtyard. Okay, pour ceux qui parlent français, il n'y a qu'un groupe, donc c'est très facile. Vous allez, vous aussi, au musée, sous le portique, parce que le père Adolphe vous fera la visite là-bas. Puis, i portoghesi. Sono un gruppo, dunque anche loro vanno al museo.
Ok, somos um grupo apenas, os portugueses, e vamos, de acordo com o que está no nosso crachá, para o museu.
Bene, los hermanas di idioma spagnola.
Ok,
c'è 3 gruppi.
3 grupos.
Museo, andate al museo.
Los que van al museo se van al museo.
Gruppo sotto il porticato.
È sencillo.
L'altro gruppo che fa Cotolengo.
Altro gruppo a Cotolengo.
Presso l'ingresso del museo missionario, cioè presso il cancello grande del cortile.
Vanno al museo missionario che sta cerca del patio.
Okay. Se siete nel gruppo Basilica,
Se están en el grupo que dice basílica,
il gruppo si trova all'ingresso laterale presso Versilia e Caravaggio.
ok, los que están con ese grupo de la basílica se encuentran en el lado de la basílica junto de las estatuas de Versilia y Caravaggio.
Bene? Per gli italiani il gruppo più numerosi è numeroso, dunque mi raccomando, fedeltà alla scelta fatta. Coloro del museo, sotto il porticato del museo, tipografia, trovate il signor Antonio presso la chiesa Francesco di Sales, che è all'angolo che va verso poi il fondo. Opera Barolo, bar Barolo. Poi Cotolengo, anche voi col gruppo spagnolo al cancello, c'è presso il museo museologico nel cortile. Tutti confusi? Tutto bene? Bene, più riusciamo ad organizzarci con grinta, più vediamo, perché dobbiamo star qua per la prossima sessione e saremo fedeli all'orario che ci è stato chiesto. Grazie.
Grazie, Don Michael.
Grazie. Non abbiamo finito con gli avvisi, quindi tenete ancora l'orecchio attento, perché quando torneremo dalle visite salesiane ci divideremo nuovamente per gruppi linguistici, ok? Come faccio a sapere in che gruppo mi trovo? Ce l'ho scritto sul pass, ok? Io per esempio ho ITA 8, ok?
Portoghese 1.
Portoghese 1, perfetto. Nel libretto, quindi in questo libretto, a pagina 22 troverete una tabella dove c'è scritto dove il gruppo che avete scritto nel pass si deve trovare, ok? C'è anche una cartina della casa con i luoghi, così questo ci aiuta a muoverci, ok? Per la casa, anche se poi ci saranno dei membri dell'equipe che daranno un po' una mano a chi non riesce a trovare la stanza, ok? Quindi guardo il gruppo sul pass e vedo la stanza dove devo andare. Questo per il pomeriggio.
Okay, so she's showing you on page 23 of your booklet the layout of Val d'Occo to show you where the rooms are that you need to be. Okay, so we're...
Ok, un ultimo avviso. Chiediamo ai moderatori e ai segretari dei gruppi linguistici
Theater is the last one on the right, but the rest I think is clear.
nel teatro ancora per
The
avere
rooms where you have to go for your sessions now are going towards the south end of the courtyard, moving towards the reception desk, that the row of buildings moving along the east side of the courtyard. Okay, beyond the Don Bosco statue, all of the rooms with the names of the rectors major are there. That's where the next session is.
Tutto bene?
Vi
Ci vediamo dopo.
auguriamo, esatto, un buon
Ci vediamo
proseguimento di giornata e vi salutiamo. Buon proseguimento.
Bye bye. Adios.